I was all set to go back and do more hockey videos. But something I wanted to talk about. So, in 11 days, I'm going to a WWE event here in Abbotsford. And I'm very excited about going to said event because it's always fun to watch wrestling live. I'm not a huge fan of the show on TV. I very rarely watch it. I may watch when the women are on, I watch when Kevin Owens is on, and that's really about it. I like Bobby Roode. I like some of the other wrestlers. I like Sami Zayn a lot. The problem is he's lost so many bloody matches, he's become inconsequential. I talked about how I didn't like the Dolph Ziggler angle, and the way that it ended with Bobby Roode is just really kind of anticlimactic. Obviously, Bobby Roode's going to beat Dolph Ziggler, and nobody else is going to care. And it's too bad because it's a waste of what could have been a good angle if it had been done right. Whatever, it's fine. We move on. So the big question that I've seen people asking since he won the title is, why Jinder Mahal? And of course, the cynic says, well, they're going to India in December, so they gave Jinder the title and he'll lose it as soon as they're done in India. That may be the case. He may very well be a champion just so that when they tour India, they sell more tickets. Just so that in that country, they get more support. But there's a large population from India in certain parts of BC. And in terms of population of people from India, there are a lot of them. A lot of people. And it's weird because when trying to court the markets in Mexico with Rey Mysterio, or I think they'll try to use Shinsuke Nakamura to increase their profile in Japan. Nobody says a whole lot, but Jinder is like, oh, that's just for India. Maybe. There's always a cynical reason why anybody's champion. It's either to sell merchandise or it's to sell tickets. And, Mahal's selling tickets. We could argue over whether or not Rusev should have that belt, and I would argue absolutely in favor of Rusev being champion. Rusev is awesome in the ring, and more than that, his personality is fantastic. And he's one of those big guys that the more he talks, the more entertaining I find him, and the more I want to watch him. Jinder doesn't have that, but he has the Bollywood boys, now the Singh brothers, for heat. So they're with him just so that they can talk and they can garner some heat for him. I don't think he's great on the microphone, and I think his recent promos against Shinsuke, which were criticized for being racist, I think it's not racist that's the problem with those promos. They just weren't funny. That's my problem with those promos. They weren't funny. There's nothing worse than a promo, whether it's a good guy or a bad guy, that just isn't entertaining or funny. So I don't think Jinder Mahal should be on the microphone a lot. He's capable of being good in those 30-second bursts where he challenges somebody or answers a challenge. Not everybody's going to be Hulk Hogan or Jake the Snake Roberts on the microphone, and not everybody should be expected to be. I would be interested to see Jinder with Paul Heyman. I would be interested to see him, if he holds the title long enough, actually challenge Brock Lesnar. Just for one night. I think that would be interesting if they build him up and he gets to the point of saying, I'm going to call out Brock Lesnar, and watch the Singh brothers go, no, what are you doing? No. And actually abandon him in the ring, like, we're not having anything to do with this. And then him hold his own against Brock Lesnar. We can talk about, oh, it looks like he's on steroids. Okay, fine. But in the 80s, everybody looked like they were on steroids. Everybody was on steroids. I don't think steroids has gone out of wrestling because so much of what wrestling is and what you become in wrestling is related to your physique. Look at Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt is the most entertaining, engaging wrestler in WWE, and I would say that he is the best at saying everything without saying much since Jake the Snake Roberts. His voice is down, he's confident, and he's calm, and he's a bad guy, but you're not really sure why sometimes. And I think Bray, if he was built like a Braun Strowman, would be champion multiple times over, and he would have had some nice long title reigns. But because Bray's built like Bray, he doesn't get that chance. And I don't feel bad for Bray because he makes a lot of money. And the Rotunda brothers are definitely very, very talented, of course. Bo Dallas and Bray Wyatt are the sons of Mike Rotunda, who was Mike Rotundo in the U.S. Express with Barry Windham, and later on became Irwin R. Shyster, IRS, which is, not a tremendous... I always thought that was a waste of Mike Rotundo, but I get it. Everybody was a character back then. I just thought Rotundo as the American hero was believable. Him and Wyndham were an entertaining tag team. Didn't last long enough. And so when I look at these kids, I can see they have the talent. Their genetics are geared towards wrestling. Bray's fantastic. But still, physique matters. So how can you blame Mahal? You can blame Jinder for doing what he did. If he did it. And he claims he didn't. And we haven't seen that he's failed a drug test. So certainly the assumption that he's on them, when there's other guys on the roster who have been caught using them in the last year, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But Jinder's grown into the role as champion. I believe him as champion. And I never thought I would. But he has that presence. They've altered his ring entrance enough, and they've given him enough of a build that he's believable as champion. And while we can point to guys like Rusev and Kevin Owens as guys who should be the flag bearers for the blue brand, and I don't argue against that. I don't argue against the idea that AJ Styles could carry that brand too. AJ Styles is fantastic. But it reminds me of the 80s in that the guys who are fighting for the world championship are the guys who are the big, brawny, tough guys. Shinsuke, of course, is not in that category. And then your secondary title, which was the Intercontinental title back then, it's the U.S. title right now on SmackDown. They're your good workers that are fighting for that secondary title. They're the guys who will put up the fantastic 5-star matches night in and night out. Because you need that all the way up and down the card. You can't just have the best guys fighting for the world title and then your U.S. champion's a step below. And I think with AJ Styles, I think he's elevating that belt. And it's funny because you hear that term thrown around a lot. And I think in terms of elevating a belt, it's the guy who makes it feel important. Make that belt the most important thing in your life. When the belt's getting passed around every other week, it makes it feel very unimportant, and then it makes challengers seem like, oh, I guess he'll win it now. And what they're doing right now, they've built Jinder up. My hope is that when he loses the belt, they don't just de-push him to the back of the line again. I don't think they will. And then my other concern is that the Bollywood boys, the Singhs, due to them being smaller, my concern would be they'd end up on 205 Live as cruiserweights, or they just get buried in the tag division. They'd be the tag team that comes out to get squashed by everybody else. So hopefully those two things don't happen. I do think the Bollywood boys / the Singhs end up wrestling in WWE, and I wouldn't be surprised if they win some matches along the way. But again, that slight build, and you wonder why Jinder built himself up. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Is Jinder winning you over? Is he not? For me, he has. And WWE, I think, made the right decision. Yeah, you could have gone with Randy Orton. You could have gone the safe route and given Randy Orton another 6 months of putting us to sleep. You could have gone with Rusev, which would have been smart, but I think Rusev will still end up being a champion someday. Or is he just buried? You guys can let me know what you think about that in the comment section too. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, and thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.